All right, so hey everybody, I'd like to welcome you to the Children with Diabetes first virtual Indianapolis conference, and I'm sitting here with my friends from across the interwebs to talk to you guys about social media and the diabetes online community. And by way of quick introduction, my name is Kerri Sparling, and I've had type 1 diabetes for 33 years. I was diagnosed in September of 1986. I wrote a blog for a really long time, and I'm currently the editorial director for Children with Diabetes, which gives me the great pleasure of hosting this panel. And now I get to have the great pleasure of turning over the first introduction to Mike Hoskins.
Hey everybody, and of course in a live video I just made everything go away, so I can't see anyone, of course, but we can talk and I can hear myself talk, so this is the time to have some fun. So I'm Mike Hoskins. I have been having so much fun in the diabetes online community for about 10 years or so now. I think the math is right there. But started out reading people like Kerri Sparling at 6 Until Me, Cherise, Scott Johnson, so many others who were online in those early days using the DSMA Twitter chat, and then started blogging on my own a little bit. And then about 8 or so years ago, joined with Diabetes Mine and started that doing newspapering and journalism online a little bit. So have always very much enjoyed the support of the community and all of the organic conversation, the advocacy that came along with that at various times. And that is pretty much all I have to say here.
Nice, Mike. Thanks. How about you, Kat?
Hi, everyone. My name's Kathryn Ortiz. I have been a type 1 diabetic for almost 22 years now. I was diagnosed in August of 1998 at the age of 3. Currently, I work as a diabetes program coordinator for the Indiana State Department of Health. I absolutely love it just because I'm able to bring a different perspective to that as a patient rather than just working from a health system or clinical side. It gives me the great opportunity also to make sure that the type 1 community is being recognized still and it's still being involved in our activities there as well. I am kind of a newbie to the diabetes online community. I started my Instagram account almost 2 years ago. I went to grad school to get my master's in public health and professional health education. And one of the tools that I read about was to help with treatment and management, and coping was the power of storytelling. So I decided to give it a try for myself, and here we are today. And it's not only helped me mentally and make so many great friends, but it's really helped with my treatment and management. And in the first 3 months, I was able to lower my A1C by an entire point just by reading different suggestions and skills from other people in the online community.
That is awesome. Thank you. And how about Jillian?
Hi, everyone. I am Jillian Rippolone, known as T1D Chick on Instagram. I've been living with type 1 diabetes for about 22 years now. I was diagnosed in the summer of 1997 while visiting my father in Michigan. I am also a type 1 sibling, so my brother Joey has type 1 diabetes as well. We were both diagnosed 1 year apart, and we are 1 year apart, so it's kind of crazy. It was really cool growing up together, having a sibling who gets it. But I kind of turned to social media I think my first post was like 2015, late 2015. And I started my Instagram account because I kind of felt alone, even though I grew up with a diabetic sibling. But there was really no one else out there. There wasn't too many things going on diabetes-wise. No one spoke about it. So I came across a diabetic Instagram account, and it really just kind of it was like that aha moment. And I was like, wow, people are like doing this. People are showing their daily life with diabetes and the ups and downs. So that really inspired me to create my account. And I'm basically known for just a lot of advocacy with diabetes and shining light on it, but also keeping it real and keeping it fun.
Nice. And Cherise, can you close us out with intros at least?
Yo, everybody. What's up? My name is Cherise Shockley. I am in Indianapolis, Indiana area. I was diagnosed with latent autoimmune diabetes in adults in 2004. I also have a husband who has type 2 diabetes, and my lovely bonus daughter was diagnosed with LADA as well a few years ago. I am also a grandmama of 2, and I just like people with diabetes. I mean, I don't know what else you want me to say. I mean, so I have same kind of story as Mike. I was diagnosed, and my husband was in Iraq, and I really didn't have anybody to talk to. And, it's like, okay, luckily I wasn't misdiagnosed. A lot of people are misdiagnosed. I was not misdiagnosed. So when it was time for me to go on insulin, I had to do some research on what insulin pump I wanted to go on. I found 2 diabetes. I signed up for 2 diabetes, not because it was a community of people with diabetes, but because Manny Hernandez has had LADA as well. To me, representation matters. And as long as I see someone who has something similar to me or even looks like me, I'm going to sign up for it. So I signed up for it. I lived on 2 diabetes for years. I used to be an admin there. I started a blog. I blog for Diabetes Daily. I started DSMA, which is it was the first Twitter chat for people with diabetes. I started Blue Fridays Initiative, Women of Color, and so many other things that I don't really care to talk about because that's irrelevant. I'm just happy to be here because I like people with diabetes.
Well, I think what everybody's mentioned is very relevant. And so we'll definitely be including links to everybody's profiles and projects and everything that people may want to find out after the fact in the notes below the video. So let's make sure that we definitively share those all over the place. But a couple of you have mentioned like what brought you into the diabetes space. And if you haven't had a chance to really do that yet, please feel free to raise your voice. But also like what keeps you here? So, I mean, I decided to start blogging because I didn't know anybody else who had diabetes back in 2005. And I was looking for people who were living with it versus people who were quote unquote suffering from it or dying. I was looking for a more hopeful narrative, and that's what brought me in, and that's what keeps me there. So how about somebody else?
Yeah, I mean, really the same thing. I mean, I mentioned before, Kerri, your blog being, the first one of the first of the many, and same type of thing. I mean, I was in my early 20s at that point, and I had just started experiencing some kind of scary complications on my own end, and every time I looked up, I think it was pre-Google at that point, but whatever it was that existed at the time, all you could find were those scary diabetes articles online with the medical professional talking about test your blood sugar and do better, and otherwise this could happen or that could happen. And that scared me a lot. And it was really very comforting, assuring to find people who were keeping it real and sharing those real stories, not necessarily, for me at least, not wearing a wedding dress and an insulin pump at the time, but, how you live with a diabetes device or things like that when you're newly married and you want, to talk to your spouse about these particular things and just deal with this. That was what brought me into it originally.
I feel like a lot of people say stuff like that. Jillian, are you going?
Yeah, I think a lot of us just never really realized that there was like this sense of community out there. And then when social media became like this big thing, I think so many of us kind of like almost found the diabetes by like community by accident. I know that was the case for me. I wasn't searching for it. It just kind of fell onto my screen, so to speak. But I think also it's like we all keep accountability with each other, and we're always like finding like the latest and greatest diabetes gadgets and just different things going on in the community. And there was also nothing out for like young adults and adults living with type 1 diabetes. Everything was more like child orientated, and there was just nothing for us. So I think we kind of like formed our community very organically. And I know for me, what keeps me going especially is that when I got on social media, I had no idea that people didn't have pumps and CGMs and all those fun things, because majority of people living with type 1 diabetes or type 2 diabetes, they don't have all those luxuries. And I think, providing people resources and different outlets, I think that keeps me going because I want to help everybody that can't get the things that they need to survive.
And what I'm hearing from a lot of different people are that we're coming into this we're jumping in at different parts of this particular river. I started with bloggings. You had mentioned Instagram. Cherise has mentioned Twitter chats. Like, so there is a place for everybody, and we're all jumping in different spots. But it's really interesting to think that we're all looking for the exact same thing. We're just kind of feeling out different mediums for getting that kind of support. Kat, you were nodding kind of the whole time that Jill was saying. Did you want to throw in on that?
Yeah, basically the same situation for me. So I went to diabetes camp growing up, and that was really my main support growing up with diabetes. I was lucky that I was diagnosed at a younger age, since I was able to experience that, since I know a lot of type 1s, as they're diagnosed later, they don't get to experience the support that is diabetes camp. And so after diabetes camp, it stopped when I was 17, 18. I didn't really have anything else. Going to college, it was really hard to find other type 1 diabetics. I did find one group, but it was a little harder for me because they all went to diabetes camp here in Indiana together. And so they were really welcoming to me, but it just kind of wasn't the same. They had so much history. When I stumbled upon doing a diabetes specific Instagram account, I was really able to form my own group and find different members in my community as well. And it actually led to me starting, Cherise, if you want to join, you're more than welcome to, a T1D women's group here in Indiana, where we try to meet every other month. We have a Facebook group where we can ask questions with each other. We've talked about everything from what do you guys think of this pump to how do you guys feel about being a type 1 diabetic and trying to get pregnant. For me, not only has this account really helped me with the accountability of my treatment and management, but it's really allowed me to open up and show not just the diabetes community aside of me, but my friends and family back home. Just be completely open. And I share absolutely everything. I'll talk about what's going on in my life medically. Right now, I've been getting tests for PCOS and kind of explaining the symptoms about it, how women with type 1 diabetes are more likely to be diagnosed with PCOS. And it's really great because coming from an education background, this information is not only helping me, but it's making people aware of it as well. And I've had people comment like, oh my God, I've been experiencing those symptoms as well. I'm going to talk to my doctor about it. And that is a huge thing for me with my account, is just getting the conversations going and making people more aware of little things when it comes to type 1 diabetes that we don't really think about.
Anybody else want to add? Go for it.
I was going to say, for me, what brought me into the space was at the point, or at the time when I came online, there was not any information hardly at all about LADA. So I was like, okay, there has to be more people out here just like me, and I have to find them. So I was like, I'm just going to start by telling my story. So as I started, getting acclimated into the community, I found that, and actually when I attended my first Roche Diabetes Summit back in 2010, I noticed that I was the only Black person in attendance. And as I looked around and I came home and I told my husband, I was like, can you believe I'm the only Black American in the room? And he was like, oh, really? So then later on, Christopher Snyder, which is I Am Spartacus, and he's the community manager now of Typool, when he came online, I'm like, oh my gosh, there's more. So then at that point, I kind of, since that first
you should
summit,
mention that he's a person of color, Cherise, because that doesn't resonate unless you say that part out
loud. He is a person of color. And what's amazing is since then, and since my first summit, I have been on a mission to make sure people of color have a voice, and also make sure the voice of people with type 2 diabetes is heard as well, because sometimes the summits are overran. And not in particular, of course, when it's type 1 specific, I get it. But a lot of other summits that talks about people with diabetes doesn't have people with type 2 diabetes. So I kind of make sure that I'm that voice for everybody, the voiceless, if you can say. So, and I think what keeps me involved is, even though I'm not as active as I used to be, I still pay attention to what goes on in the community. And I also make sure that I welcome every single person of color in the fold, so that way they know that they're not alone. I also make people, feel like they're included, whether it's on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, Snapchat, wherever I'm there.
Jeez, Cherise.
Cherise, I have to say, you really opened up a lot for us. I know me specifically, because I think sometimes some people just don't get it or see it because they're not like so like immersed in whether it's social media or other than they're just like their little bubble. And I know for me, I've been hosting type 1 meetups now just, for the last couple of years, and they're just growing. I mean, we get 50 to 100 people sometimes at a meetup. And I realized I was innocently kind of excluding people, like totally innocently. I was like, oh my God, I have type 1 diabetes meetup, but not diabetes meetup. So that was something like Kat and I were going to have a nice summit, a nice meetup during the Friends for Life Indianapolis. And I was like, oh my God, wait, we have to change this because we just innocently didn't realize that we were excluding people. But you definitely, I know, helped me realize we have to definitely be more inclusive, whether it's meetups or just different events, but even all the summits and all the speaking opportunities, because, when you do look at who's speaking, it is predominantly white folks. Mm-hmm. So thank you for that.
Oh, you're welcome. And thank you so much. You just made me blush.
That's the thing. Like when I look at this community in general, there is a lot of grace and kindness given to different subsets and groups of people, and this real earnestness to want to learn from one another. And I like to think that that makes this community very unique because there aren't a lot of different factions where people are fighting against each other, but there's just a real effort to be cohesive and build bridges. And that's one of my favorite parts of this community. And I'm really glad that you guys are like encapsulating that here. And so because this is a Children with Diabetes virtual summit, our first one, the first session of the virtual summit that we're recording. So I'm definitely sweating because I'm a little nervous. It's got to go well.
But we're like on a roller coaster ride.
Kind of, yeah. And I'm like, but we're only a group of 5 people. So we're definitely within the mandated number of people allowed to be in one space, right? COVID jokes are not cool. I don't know. But
I think they're fine because sometimes that's how you cope with those things.
Right.
So that is
off your
yeah, raise your Purell. But like that's the thing. Like, so there's something very powerful about finding a little bit of levity and humor in something that can really make your life feel either compromised or very heavy. And so the 4 of you in particular have a really good way of telling your stories and getting your issues kind of on the table without drowning people in the despair or the sadness. But you're very real about it. A number of you have said, oh, I'm trying to keep it real and trying to keep it real. And that seems to be something that's unique to our community, but really something that you guys excel at. So can you talk a little bit, whoever's comfortable, about a topic that you feel like is difficult to address, but necessary for our community to start to really understand?
I can go first if you don't mind. So I'm about to get really real, if that's okay.
Yeah.
I talked about it a little over a year ago on my account when I was doing suicide prevention training. And I think we need to talk a lot more about diabetes, burnout, and mental health when it comes to having a chronic disease, because people with chronic diseases are 3 times more likely to be diagnosed with a mental health disorder. Personally, I've been diagnosed with anxiety and depression, and just trying to find ways to cope with that. When I was in middle school, I had horrible diabetes burnout to the point where it was almost suicidal idealization because I felt so alone. I didn't have that online diabetes community. I wasn't going to diabetes camp, and I was the only diabetic in my community that I knew of. And I felt so alone. It was kind of like, well, why did I have to get it? Why couldn't it have been Lauren down the street who got it? Why did I have to deal with it? And so I don't think that's something that we really talk about, the seriousness of it as well, especially my endocrinologist. She's absolutely amazing. She always asks me, well, how's your mental health going, especially with my therapist as well. She even asked, with COVID-19 going on, how are you feeling about that? Do you have enough diabetes supplies for all this? And so it's really nice that I'm seeing individuals who are specialized in diabetes when it comes to acknowledging mental health. And in my platform, that's why I like to keep it real, because I want people to know that they're not alone. They're not experiencing this on their own. And that honestly, diabetes burnout, it's not going to be if it happens, it's probably going to be when it happens. And so that's just something important for me. personally.
Okay, this is random. I wish I could just, even though social distancing is in effect right now, if I was with you, I would have to like do a fake hug because
We can do it.
yeah, it's like, I think that's one of the things, right, is mental health. People don't talk about mental health and diabetes. And I think what's amazing now over the last few years, especially in the online space, whether it's in communities, closed communities, or in social media, just in general, people are feeling okay to say, I'm not okay. And I think that what's amazing is when people say they're not okay, then there's a lot of people there to rally with them and to hug them and to say, you know what, you're not alone. I've been there. But then on the flip side of that is actually having people in the community stop and say, wait a minute, are you okay?
Mm-hmm.
And so I think I've seen a big 100-degree turnaround from not talking about it to now people are starting to feel comfortable to talk about it, and for people to feel comfortable to ask, are you okay?
I completely agree with that. I remember in high school when I started seeing a therapist, it was like, okay, I need to keep it hush hush. No one can know I'm going. And then when I got to college, like I remember sitting in my sorority dining room area, someone's like, who has anxiety here? And like half the room raises their hands, like who's seeing a therapist? The other half raises their hands. And I'm very thankful that the stigma behind mental health and talking about it has improved drastically over the past few years.
Yeah.
I think social media, it could be a blessing or a curse. And I know for us, especially us, it's been a blessing. And I think that we're just educating people. But also, I think when people on social media, like for my platform, I have over 30,000 type 1 diabetics, type 2 diabetics, diabetics all over, and caregivers. When they're like looking at me, I'm like, how can I be an example? How can I use my platform to be positive, not something that's not more of like that artificialness on Instagram. And I know for me, like I really body positive and type 1 diabetes, I think that's a really important just topic in the diabetes community, because like Kat, I hid my diabetes pretty much until I would say like my mid 20s, and I'm 31 years old. So I pretty much hid it my whole life, hid my gadgets, hid everything. Even when I would go on dates, I'm like, oh my God, I could take off my pump for like an hour. That'll be okay. And now I'm like, oh no, I'm going to rock my gadgets. And this is my body. There's no just like headshots. There's full body. Like, this is what I look like. I have curves. I have, no thigh gap. And here's my pump site and my deck site. And I think we just have to stick together in the community and talk about it more. And especially when other people with like a lot of, even whether you have a few or a lot of followers, people are still looking up to each one of us. And it's really important that we like give a good message and not keep things so kind of just fake. I think it's good to show the good days and the bad days, and not every picture is going to have a filter or hide gadgets or just show the perfect unicorn blood sugars. It's so important to show all of that. And I think that's just what's really important, being real and authentic.
And so what I should do is ask everybody to stand up to prove that you're really wearing pants while we're recording these videos from home. But I will not do that because I am not wearing the best pants. And so just getting out ahead of that right now. Feels important to say.
I'm wearing my pajama pants.
So am I.
For this today.
That's the thing. But that is also, there's something so nice about being able to say that to a group of people who I suspect are also not wearing the best pants. But the same goes for diabetes, that you can be really honest about the stuff that trips you up, because there's a group of people that is not judging you, but instead kind of become that scaffolding that helps you stay up. And Mike, and I'm sorry, it seemed like you were going to say something before. You want to jump in on that?
I mean, echoing what everybody else has said, and I think too, being a guy in the DOC in the community, that was something too, where for many years, I first started finding people in 2005. I lurked for a very long time reading blogs. So fun, so interesting. Yeah, but the joys of lurking and not exactly participating early on, and just having that Me Too kind of moment, that I get it type of moment, was very powerful for me. But it was one of those things where I read people's stories, but as a guy, I still wasn't comfortable sharing certain things, talking about my own mental health aspects until I saw other people starting to share some of those, reading a blog from somebody, many states away, who was comfortable going very real, very deep on some of those things, which made me then look inside and say, you know what? I can't deal with this on my own. I need to talk with other people. I need to share my own parts of this story, but also get some professional help. And it was something that gave me permission to almost do that for myself. And I would not have been in that position without DOC friends.
I love that, Mike. That's beautiful. Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
I was saying, if I could give like one piece of advice to everybody that's like watching, especially the parents of young diabetics or even teenagers, if I could just give you one piece of advice, it'd be start early. If you have a young type 1 or, a school age type 1, get them involved in the community, take them to events. If you're able to get them to diabetes camp, and if not, all these camps usually have scholarships as well. Get them involved young. So as they grow up, it's just, they're more confident with themselves, and they'll know that they're not alone. And then when they grow up, it's not going to be such a burden. They don't have to hide their diabetes in college and then, and go through we all go through a burnout phase, I believe. But if you can start, I feel like early on, it'd be less of more of that burnout stage.
Sure, like get acclimated to that community from the outset. Sorry, Cherise, go ahead.
Oh, no, that's okay. I was going to say, I totally agree. Burnout is real, especially when you work in it full time and then you also live with it. So for me, I would say that the two things that I would like to talk about, or that's important right now in the diabetes space, is one, we need more representation. We need all different walks of life, whether it's socioeconomic, financial, whatever. We need it. We also need to really jump on the back of our brothers and sisters who, and I know this is a children with diabetes space, so this is more of type 1 space. But also, I want you to think about those people who have type 2 diabetes, who's trying to fight to get access to insulin pumps and CGMs online, that need our help. And I know they're not a cute kid who needs it, that we assume do not need it, because if they're going for it and their doctor prescribes it, they need it. But if we can fight for them as much as we fight for people with type 1 diabetes, that will make the world in our space so much better and make more people with type 2 continue to share their story. So I think for me, those are the two things.
Yeah, I completely agree with that as well. And sometimes I think that at least in the type 1 diabetes community, it's gotten better over the years. But what I've noticed is there is a stigma against people with type 2 diabetes. And there's a stigma like, oh, they cause it to themselves, blah, 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 blah. When in reality, that isn't the full picture of it. Genetics play a role. Your socioeconomic status plays a role. People don't realize, for the American Diabetes Association, their diabetes camps are for both children with type 1 and type 2 diabetes. And it's not advertised that much because
it is now.
Diabetes used to be known as juvenile diabetes, but it's just like, we have children with type 2 diabetes who don't fit in that stereotypical group, who need just as much support, because newsflash, we all have the same risk of complications. We're really all in this together.
Yeah.
Is there somebody else who had something they wanted to throw in on that? Because for the people who are watching at home, I actually sent out a list of questions because I was trying to be off-brand for me and sort of be organized. But you guys have organically answered them without me having to read through my weird list. And so, I mean, we've already talked a lot about what you guys want to see from the social media space, some issues that haven't been brought up maybe to your satisfaction that you really want to put a bullhorn on. And I love that. And so we're going to be wrapping up in about 10 minutes. So I'd like to spend a couple of minutes talking about some of the challenges that we as a community have. And I'd really like to end on ways that we can continue to inspire one another and ways that we can move forward as a cohesive group. So let's start with some challenges and then move into some like awesome peacetime sort of stuff. So who wants to roll? Jill, you've been quiet for a minute. Let's get you.
Yeah, I think Cherise, she spoke about, I think, two major issues in the community that we all need to work on, which is being inclusive, whether it's color, race, but also with diabetes, type 1, type 2, all the diabetes. And I just think that's really important. And, I think that just support is everything. There was something I read, I'm not sure where it was from. It said, until there is a cure, there is community. And that is just like my go-to. If I could get that like on my forehead, I would, because it's so important.
Can I just say
that's where I would be
that's
today,
for children
though,
with
honestly.
diabetes. That's how we close all our emails until there's. So thanks for bringing it home.
Yeah, I saw it.
Yeah. That wasn't even a planted question. Yeah, until there's a cure, there's children with diabetes. So thank you for making it look like I'm doing my job. Go on.
Yeah, I don't know where I would be, honestly, right now without our community, because like Kat was saying earlier, my A1C in college, I was a 14, and today in 2020, I'm a 5.8. But that's with eating carbs. That's with doing what a lot of people are doing, but everything is achievable. And we all are going to have different management styles. There's not like a one size fits all with diabetes. And I think that's really important, because we're all going to have just different methods. We have different doctors. We grew up all differently in different cultures and races. But yeah, honestly, sticking together and just knowing you're not going to have the same, let's say insulin dosages as everybody else, or certain carb intakes. We're all different, and that is okay.
I love how everyone was nodding like this when you were like, no one size fits all. There was like an actual breeze coming from all the different heads in the computer. So that's great. Hey, Kat, do you want to go next?
Yeah, definitely. Just kind of along with what Jillian just said, it's completely individualized, and I'm lucky that I have this platform I do at work, and it's something that I try to preach, even though under our CDC grants, we are focused on getting people to go to specific programs, the diabetes prevention program, the diabetes self-management and education support program. But it's also important for me to tell our health systems that just because you're sending these people to these programs, it is still individualized. And I promote empathy, being able to really talk to your patients. Don't come at them like, oh, your A1C went up an entire point. What happened there? Just kind of is like, hey, is everything okay going on? Your A1C went up a little bit. What's going on at home? What challenges? And work with them on goals for the next time, because let's be honest, we all have those days. Being at home with self-quarantining with the coronavirus, I've been eating a lot more than normal. So my blood sugars have been a little bit higher than I would like them to be, and I'm taking a little bit more insulin than I'd like them to be, but it gets to the best of us. One thing that I would love to see more in our community is more awareness about the resources and programs that we have as well, not just programs from clinics, but programs that different nonprofits offer as well. My dream job one day would be to create my own nonprofit that is just solely program focused for people with all types of diabetes and support as well. And obviously have Diabetes Camp, because Diabetes Camp is 100% the reason I'm here today in the diabetes field.
No, and we're glad you are. And also just a big shout out to Children with Diabetes for putting together this particular program to help reach people when, as we're talking about quarantine and COVID-19 and that sort of stuff. I mean, this is a way to keep us connected as a group when we are not allowed to, as Cherise said, even go up and give somebody like the big old hug. So this is our attempt to keep our community connected. And it's through the sponsors for this program and the people like you guys who are very generous with your time in talking with the community. So thank you guys for being part of this.
But you know what makes this even more amazing, though, real quick, before we go I know I'm random.
No, jump in.
But not only, are you all doing this for people, who are going to attend the conference, you're going to share it with everybody. So you're giving everybody a piece of what it's like, but you're doing it and you're not even, that's amazing. You're opening up Friends for Life, which is not just for kids, but you're opening up Friends for Life for people with diabetes. This could actually potentially be the first time that you all have people with type 2 diabetes watch and learn. Do you know how much, like, that is, I'm sorry, but I'm really passionate about that. And that is fantastic. So thank you all from the bottom of my heart for doing this and for thinking about the diabetes community as a whole. Much love.
Mike, go ahead and top that. I dare you.
Dare me to follow that also.
Yeah.
No, I mean, I think, just jumping off what everybody has said, and, I think so much of it for me comes down to connecting the dots. I mean, in whatever way you're talking about, whether it's online, offline, children or teen, adults, type 1, type 2, everything going on in the world now, just connecting dots for information, for emotional, mental health, peer support. I think that's what means so much to me over the years, now moving forward, is people come in at this at different times looking for sometimes very different things, sometimes very focused on advocacy, sometimes in desperate search for feeling better because they're scared out of their minds about something very specific. And it's about connecting with what you need in that moment and then going forward. And I think that's a huge part, especially, again, as we're so isolated. I mean, there's so many different events, not only FFL and Indy, but, across the board that have been canceled, are being canceled. And I think, having those connections at this point, it's very important at this point, and probably going forward even more.
And that's the ugly irony, because all of our support connection points have been canceled, but diabetes has not. And that seems to be very unfair. And so what I want to do as we close things out, and you guys, again, thank you so much for taking the time to have this discussion. I'm really excited to share it with everybody. Just give me a quick round robin of the best thing about the diabetes community. Mike, your mustache is still up there, so you go first.
I'm still here. Apparently I have to shave at some point during this
do it when the whole COVID thing is over. Hopefully it'll be still short.
Yeah. No, I mean, I think, again, it comes down to, the community. Best part of it is the people. I mean,
Nice.
It's all about us. It's all about everyone. And we can connect.
Nice. Kat, best thing.
The best thing for me is, like what Mike said, just the people, the connections I've been able to make, the friends I've been able to make, support as well. And also for me, it's the education and skills that I've learned because of it and how it's helped me with my treatment and management. And it's made me more motivated to try things like, oh, this person lowered their range by 10 points. I'm going to try it too and see what that does for my A1C in 3 months. Like, I love self-experimenting based on this stuff.
That's awesome. Jillian, best thing.
I love my meetups. I love going to them. I love engaging with everybody. Everyone has a different story, and people who aren't even loud in the community, people that are more silent about their diabetes, everyone comes to these meetups and they might not have so much to say, but they're observing, they're hearing us. So, even if you're sitting silent, like, yeah, come to the meetups. Like, we love you. We support you.
Love it. Cherise.
So I think for me, what makes this space so amazing is that it connects people from all different walks of life. For me personally, it's helped me find my second family. It's helped me find some of the most amazing people. It's helped me find my passion for giving back, and also for population health and also social media. So I think that it's very hard for me sometimes to realize that diabetes is a pain in the butt, because there's so much that, this condition has brought to me that it's, I've been able to help people get diagnosed with LADA, or, be able to talk to senior citizens about how they can connect and share their stories online.
Oh no. Did you get muted? You started to say something really passionate and then it went away. Cherise, say that last part one more time with the exact same inflection.
Oh, my glasses died. So
wait, you need to say more, because that doesn't make any sense unless you say more.
So my glasses, I'm a techie person, so my glasses are Bluetooth. so I can listen, talk, whatever through my glasses.
Wow.
This is amazing.
I,
Wow.
I tried them on last time I saw them. She's like, I'm listening to music right now. Here, put these on. And I put them on. I'm like, oh my God,
Wow.
the future.
She's having her own concert in her head. This is great.
Exactly. That's exactly how it feels. So, but what I was saying is that for me, it's taking all of these things that I've learned through the online community, through social media, and being able to take it out into the world. And also, heck, even my jobs. So now I am the community manager for Diatribe. Like, so I'm even learning even more about this space and about people with diabetes and healthcare providers and everything else. So I think that sometimes it can be a pain in the butt, but just like anything in life, you have to find it somewhere deep down in your heart to look for the positive. And if you're having a hard time, reach out to me. I can help you, I promise. And everybody else here can help you, and everybody else that's watching can help you.
I just want to say one more thing, if you don't mind if I add this. I think by us going online with it and interacting with the diabetes online community, it has given us all the opportunity to make lemonade out of the lemons that are diabetes.
Mm-hmm. Just wringing out your pancreas, right? Like into some delicious old lemonade. I'm down for that. And you guys, like I've said before, you've been very generous with your time. I'm really excited to be sharing this with everybody. But at the same time, I also want people to know who are watching at home that you don't have to have a gigantic profile in order to be part of this community. You don't have to have all these followers. You don't have to spend all this time writing a blog. You can do some small, simple things like joining a tweet chat or just reading what Mike had mentioned earlier, talking about lurking. Like, these are powerful ways to get connected with the community. So there's no pressure to share every aspect of your diabetes with everybody. What's important to share are the things that are important to you, and to make really solid connections with people that resonate for you. And so what you guys are doing through your channels and through your work is just so appreciated. I love the fact that we have all connected through the internet, but not a single one of us spent more than 15 seconds talking about like how many followers or when we started or whatever. We dove right into the meat of why this stuff matters. And I think that says a lot about you guys in terms of where you are focused. So thank you so much for doing all the work that you do and for just sharing all your stuff with everybody. Mike's fingers up and his mustache.
And my mustache. Can I also just say how amazing it is that there have been no diabetes device beeps going off while we're doing this?
I was behind it, but I was on mute.
Should
My
we do a
3-year-old
bunch
has
of
been lurking
roll
like
call?
outside the door this whole time. So everybody wave goodbye. Bye.
Bye.